guys, and welcome back to another Delta Force video. And today it's going to be a little bit of different content, but today we're going to be going over and reviewing the Season 5 update that has just been released into Delta Force, giving us a brand new warfare map, a new operator, and plenty more stuff, including 2 new weapons and a different UI. So basically, we just got Season 5. It's called Break. And Season 5 Break is going to be prioritizing in warfare mode, which is refreshing to see. As a warfare player main myself, it's nice to see that we get an update as to map wise, and I think the devs did a great job with this update. Now, the thing that's a little on the frustrating side is the fact that it did take 4 months to release this, but as a player who's played on the Cyclone map recently, I think the Cyclone map is definitely worth the 4-month wait, and I think it was definitely worth it, as it is definitely one of the best maps we have in the game for ranged weapons and short-range weapons. So, on a base of what we can expect to see in Delta Force's future, we can see that they're leaning towards the Operation Extraction shooter kind of game more than they are the 32v32 battlefield type shooter that we have currently. Now, this game has a bright future. If they can capitalize on their potential that they have in the game, I think this game has potential to be a top marketing first-person shooter. Now, when it comes to their competition, the main competition we have is going to be Battlefield, and it's going to be Battlefield and Escape from Tarkov. As Tarkov, I think the Season 5 update just came out with Tarkov's final update, because Tarkov, I think, is finally going into full release. Battlefield 6 is, I think, uncovering new content as well. So Delta Force, knowing that they're leaning more towards the operation side, we'll probably still expect to get a little bit more content for warfare mode here in the future. Now, I do think that the game might have a drop in players here in the near future just because of Tarkov's new update that's dropping, putting them into full release mode. And I do think that we'll get a drop in players after Battlefield 6's new update releases, as those two are the main competitions, as well as Battlefield 24. Battlefield 24, as we all know, is dying by the minute. But as for Delta Force, if the devs can continue to give us more content for operations and warfare mode, if devs can finally give us more content, more quality content, I should say, not just content in general that's thrown out there. If we can get some more real content in this game that's good quality and worth the time, then yes, I think this game is a very, very high chance of being one of the most successful shooters on the market. Now, I'm going to cover the player stuff like that, because as we all know, this game is free to play. It's probably one of the best free-to-play games out there. And for what the game is, yes, there could be some improvements, right? That's how any game is. For what the game is, there could definitely be some improvements seen here in the future when it comes to the anti-cheat strength, or when it comes to the players and all sorts of stuff, compatibility. Now, here's where stuff gets interesting. The Delta Force console release was just announced for August 19th. And this is where I think Delta Force is going to get the most traction to, rebuild their game and become the successful game that we were expecting to be from launch. Not saying they're not successful right now, they definitely are. This is one of by far my favorite games on the market right now. But so as for the console release, a lot of people don't play on PC, actually. There's a lot of people that do, but the majority of people that play shooting games and just games in general are the console player base. And seeming as Delta Force took the time, I mean, what are we, about a year after launch? Or like 8 months after launch? as they didn't release it on console, that was like the big thing that hit the community pretty hard at the beginning. Because I have a couple friends who play on console that were wanting to check this game out but couldn't because of the console release issues. As it is releasing on August 19th, and they took the amount of time that they did to take, I'm hoping for a pretty seamless release on console. I've played on controller. I've connected my controller to my PC and played with controller. Controller support is great. I have a PlayStation 4 controller, so it's nice to see that they do support PS4 controllers if that's what you have laying around in your setup. You can connect those if needed. I think the console release is going to be awesome. I really do. And the reason why is because I've played with the console, with the controller. I've played with all of that, and it's a seamless release. The game feels awesome on controller. Now, as a keyboard and mouse player on this game, I prefer keyboard and mouse. So, like I was saying earlier, Tarkov's update, Battlefield, it could cause some issues for this game. And rightfully so. I mean, games have competition, right? That's just how the world of gaming works, right? Games that are good get competition, and they have to live up to the competition and drop new content. And that's where I really think Delta Force has been struggling recently. They've been dropping content, but it's not been enough to fulfill their player base, and it's also not been enough to fulfill the hole that the other games are digging Delta Force into because of how big and quality-filled their updates are. Now, Delta Force, if they can pump out about a map per month or a map per every 2 months, I think they're on track. Because what I've noticed is playing this game regularly, I have like 160 hours on the game. What I've noticed from playing this game regularly is the map detail. This game goes into pretty good depth when it comes to building their maps, and I don't think they're struggling there. I think where they're struggling is quality. Or not quality, the quantity of the amount of maps that they're releasing per set amount of time. And this is really causing the game to struggle. Now, when we talk about the players and the operators and all sorts of stuff, this is where you can kind of tell that it's more focused and based towards the operations side. Is, as a Warfare player myself, I don't really ever, well, I actually haven't ever played the operations mode. Like, I've never played it. Don't plan on playing it unless I get asked to on a stream, or if I genuinely just feel the need to switch it up. I don't plan on playing operations mode. I'm not a big extraction shooter kind of guy. Now, I do think that, like I said, as the Warfare player I am, this game definitely needs to start focusing on their Warfare mode too, because the Warfare players, the operators in Warfare, Luna is just straight up broken. I mean, it's not even funny. Luna, the Volt Arrow, the glitch where she can see through walls it's insane. And I think that's causing a lot of negative feedback from the player base for Warfare mode. Right? And which is what you would expect, right? I mean, if you got an unfair player operator that is causing issues for the player base, you would want to resolve that, right? And it just makes sense. That's how it would normally be. And seeing as that would normally be, you would think they would update that, but no, they're really only buffing Luna. They really recently actually just buffed Luna, and I think that's proving that they're focused more on the operation or the Warfare operations side than they are the Warfare mode, because the fights don't occur nearly as often as they do in Warfare mode in operations. So, if anything, buffing Luna is just showing that they want to expand their player base for operations mode more. Because that's just what I guess the majority of the player base is. I mean, if you go to the search bar on YouTube and search up Delta Force gameplay, the majority of it is going to be extractions. So, if they can figure out a way to balance out the different, modes and get an even amount of content between the two modes, then yes, I think this game is fairly competitive, especially, like I said, in mind. You got to keep in mind the fact that this game is free to play. And this game, I think personally it's definitely overachieved when it comes to gameplay and all that, because for a free-to-play game, you're not expecting something ridiculous, right? You're expecting a mid to low quality tier game like Fortnite, or you're expecting and sometimes you'll get shiny gems out of the water like this, or like certain other games. You'll get, some decent free ones here and there. That's just how the world of gaming works. You're not always going to know whether or not your gameplay, or you're not going to know if it's going to be a great update or not, right? You're just going to hope. It's not for certain. Definitely not for certain. And you can't take that for granted. So I think what we can expect from Delta Force here in the future is a little bit more focused on operations than warfare. But if they can, like I said, if they can balance it out between the two game modes, this game has high potential at being one of the best games. So pretty much I would recommend. So for my overall review on Season 5, I think this was a great update in terms of what it was updating. Like, it updated the Warfare mode, which I believed was in dire need of an update. We haven't had a map in 4 months added to Warfare. So, it was a very necessary update, in my opinion. We needed it. As Warfare players, we really needed a new map, and we got it. And with that, we also got new weapons. So the new weapons we got were the KC-37 or the KC-17. We also were given the compound bow. The compound bow is alright. It's actually pretty good. But operations players, I think they're set where they are. I think they don't have to worry about, receiving updates for the next couple of months. And I think devs can finally look into that and realize, hey, we need to start working on Warfare a little bit more. And if they can finally come to the realization that that might be true, then they can be a serious competitor in the gaming world, in the first-person shooting gaming category. I think they have a real chance, and they just have to figure out that balance between Warfare and operations mode, and then I think this game is really set. And I think a good example of what they need to do is replicated under multiple different games, and it's represented under a few different ones here and there, and they can be sort of balanced between, like, in other games that there are. So, like, if they can get a little bit of Tarkov aspect in here with the extraction shooter, and if they can get a little bit of, Battlefield, if they can figure out a balance between those two, it can cause a major increase in player base. And we haven't seen the console release yet, so if the console release is pretty good and we get some more players here with console, then we could see a huge increase in the reviews and the positivity of the future of this game. And I genuinely just think that this game has a positive uptrend, and if they can continue doing what they're doing with a little more focus on Warfare mode, this game, like I've said multiple times, can compete for the #1 spot in first-person shooting. So that pretty much is just going to wrap up the review for Season 5. And if you guys want to see more reviews, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next one.